Hey everybody, my name is Victoria Thompson. I am a host for Focus on EDU via CDW Education. I am an education strategist based out of Orlando, Florida, and today I am so excited to have my friend, colleague, and member of my professional learning network, Stevie Frank, here to talk to y'all today about all things education, Real Housewives, and everything in between. So I will go ahead and let Stevie in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and anything else that you'd like for us to know about you?
Oh, I would love to. So my name is Stevie Frank. I am a technology integration specialist at my district located in Zionsville, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana, if you're ever around the Midwest area. And I have found myself in this area of technology right now where I'm like, it's the perfect time to be here. It's a time to be alive, as I like to refer to it as, just because in the era of AI, all things conversations surrounding, artificial intelligence and are students using it? And yes, they are. How are they using it? So I've really enjoyed my role with that. I am also an educational learning consultant. I do some trainings through I2E on Microsoft products, on Adobe products. I'm kind of the jack of all trades. I feel like it helps me in my role in Zionsville if I can learn from how other people are doing things, and it better, helps me to help my teachers. So I've really enjoyed all of those different roles and kind of helping me right here too as well. So yeah, a little bit about me.
And then you were saying that you did a course for realtors. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I did, yeah. So I just recently added onto my list of presentations presenting on productivity and AI to a group of realtors. So we have a local realtor group here that's called Carpenter Realtors in Indiana. And so I came to their rally and talked to them about what AI is, what generative AI is, how they've already been using AI, and then how they can use open AI to actually help increase their productivity and marketing as well.
That is so cool. See y'all.
Fun.
This has practical application regardless of what your role is, what you do, right?
Yeah.
AI is everywhere. So you were talking a little bit about just your role as a technology integration specialist. Can you talk a little bit more about how you approach that role, how you speak to people about it, what your day-to-day duties are, and just kind of how that influences what you learn in your professional life?
Oh gosh, that's such a loaded statement there, Victoria. We're just starting off nice and easy. Gosh. Okay. So I have to start. How do I start with my conversations? It all starts with relationships. So something that I think is extremely important is I'm not going to be able to integrate anything, no matter what it is, or even if it's a great idea, if I don't have those good, solid relationships with my staff. And so I oversee 3 different schools in my district. And so that means a lot of me. I'm traveling around at all different times and trying to build those relationships with teachers. And so now I'm kind of moving into the realm of now I'm wanting to provide professional development with those teachers. So like this morning, I just had a professional development tech slam where I had it at the middle school. And I talked about Magic School AI and how teachers can utilize, OpenAI and apps like that to really kind of enhance productivity and help teachers save time, because at the end of the day, that's never something we can get back is time. So anytime I can help save time, I feel like is a good use of time. And so part of my job also looks like going around to different schools and, co-teaching. So today I actually co-taught with an E&L teacher in integrating reading coach into her classroom. So she was looking for that fluency practice with students. And so I co-taught that. I also co-planned with a Spanish teacher and taking a look at Adobe Express and how she can use the animate to audio feature with having her students practice with their fluency with speaking a different language. So, and it's just 1:45 here. So that's been my day so far.
Love it. How many schools do you service in your role?
I service 3. And then I have an office area at our ESC. And I feel like I have to count that as a school sometimes too, because I often find myself in meetings there. So I'm kind of everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah. Love it. So in addition to being a technology integration specialist, you also identify as an equity champion. So I'd love for you to describe a little bit about what that means to you and also how that influences what you do in your job.
Oh gosh. So that's one of my favorite hats. It was a hat that I kind of started to use when I was a fifth grade teacher as well at my school. They had kind of representatives from each school. And so I was excited to be able to sit and step into that role. What it looks like now is so we oftentimes will meet at district discussion levels each month. So I go to meetings after school and it's totally voluntary basis. And so I've really enjoyed my time and conversations there. And how it impacts my coaching is a lot of times I will be, leading a discussion of like, okay, well, if we're going to be practicing a tool, so a lot of times I will kind of model how it looks like to do Adobe Express, for example. And instead of saying and asking the kids, okay, well, where's your favorite vacation that you've ever been on? Well, that question is inequitable because not every student can really go on all of these really great bougie trips, right? So keeping that in mind, I will always curtail my work into saying, what's your favorite season or what's your favorite, if you could choose anything in the world that you would ever want for your best perfect day, what would you include in your best perfect day? And so really trying to make some of those prompts that I give to students, equitable in that regard. We've also done a lot of really great work with our E&L department in ensuring that technology comes up right beside students on where they're at and trying to include that accessibility. And so that's something that I've really kind of wrapped my arms around in the department of just taking a look at how can we work really closely with E&L services and providing tech to help make sure that learning happens for all of our students and everybody in our community, no matter what language they speak.
And that's so profound because I was at a situation not too long ago where the opening question for a professional learning opportunity was, what do you want for Christmas? And I do celebrate Christmas. My family celebrates Christmas, but we know that not everybody celebrates Christmas. Yeah. So even with that opening statement, we were already kind of putting people in a weird spot. Maybe they celebrated Hanukkah, maybe they didn't celebrate Christmas at all. Maybe they were celebrating other holidays. Maybe they were traveling, right? Like maybe they were doing other things. But, to have that as an opener, my gut response was, okay, I know I can answer this, but I don't know how many other people can answer this. So I love that you use that as an example, just kind of like looking at what people do and what they celebrate and maybe what they are able to do within the capacity of their families and their living situations. Because sometimes we might make assumptions and those assumptions might not be the reality, of what people are doing. So love that. All right. So speaking of different things regarding your role, reluctant learners. Yeah. That is a huge topic that is going on in education regarding implementation, carrying out different devices and platforms. How do you engage people who might be reluctant to integrate technology into their roles? And what does that look like for you to do that?
So what a great question. I have really tried to lead a lot of optional professional development sessions. A lot of those are centered around food. So I had like a cookies and learn. So there's a lady who local in the area, Jill's Cookies is her name. And so I got a big order of cookies and then I was just hanging out in the LGI or large group instruction room and was just like, hey, I'm here to answer any questions because we're going to start implementing Google Chromebooks. And so, kind of providing those times and just talking with people. Again, I just go back to that relationship component. Right before some of those sessions, I'll kind of walk around the building in the morning during passing periods and just say like, hey, are you coming this afternoon? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Those have really helped. Having good relationships with different ed tech brands has really helped. So a lot of times I will contact an ed tech brand and say like, hey, I'm going to be providing professional development over your topic or over your brand. Can you send me either some PD resources or some swag? And a lot of times that will kind of also get them excited. Offering like, hey, you can get a free t-shirt or you can get this, you can get that. I feel like those are just different things to get staff interested in just to show up, because sometimes having them show up is just the hardest step of all. And meeting teachers where they're at. I feel like sometimes we have these being in tech, I feel like everybody's like right here with me, right? Like, yeah, we're all doing tech. We're all doing the same thing. And that's not the expectation that I should have on all of my teachers. Because it maybe not include like 2.0 point tech, or using AI or using all of the latest and greatest, their curriculum might be solid and might be great. And that works for that teacher. So how can I meet that teacher? I can help that teacher be productive. And so I can work with that teacher on saying, let's do digital organization with Microsoft. Like, how can you write a to-do list, keep it digitally so it follows you everywhere? How can you write anecdotal records over your students? Let me show you OneNote. What does that look like to kind of help organize everybody? So those have been my main pushes of meeting teachers where they're at. And then also I send out a biweekly newsletter to all my staff. That's the stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, I was cruising along Twitter and I saw the best thing. Let me, blast it out there and share with what I've learned. So those are some of my points of contact. And that's how I try to make it. Not that it's perfect. And I learn different tips and tricks every week. So.
Sounds great. And it also sounds like you're doing a lot to just kind of engage people, right? Like that engagement piece is so important, especially when you're working with people who may not really know what's available to them, or maybe they have questions. You're giving them resources for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. So kind of like a tangential question. You and I are both big fans of The Real Housewives.
We sure are.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like when I'm having a tough day, I like to think of Real Housewives of New York, where Luann tells Alex, even Louis Vuitton makes mistakes, right? So like at the end of the day, even if I make a mistake, even one of the greatest fashion designers makes a mistake.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there is a particular housewife that you kind of channel when things get tough, or maybe a quote that you lean on whenever you have a challenging day. Like what kind of inspiration do you take from your hobbies outside of work?
So great question. I feel like this question is just perfect to say you have to fill your own cup. You can't run from an empty cup. So whatever that cup looks like and sounds like, and for me, it's sitting there watching Housewives, filling up shopping carts that I never hit continue. That is definitely one I like to do too as well. But I would say what was really helpful for me and professionally speaking was just in my more marketing side is I kind of took a look at all of those different shows, Kardashians included. And I was like, how can I build a brand? How can I build a business around kind of that fourth wall effect of like, how do you get yourself out there using social media? How are you using that as a medium to help grow a brand into turning it into and looking like engagement piece, right? That always made me cognizant and aware of anything that I ever posted. So always kind of thinking like, okay, how can I use the platforms that I have for good, A, and then B, also using that to kind of leverage my, the influence of some people putting out content, and always making sure that I'm very hyper aware of what is out there. That is kind of how I was influenced. So I know that that's kind of like a silly, like, oh, these housewives kind of help Stevie, but it was one of those things that I was just like, wow, everything is really put together. And in that, that just kind of helped me build my own brand and my own business. Like I was thinking about maybe do I do a website? Do I not? Do I get professional pictures taken? Do I not? Those kind of decisions kind of helped me to drive that. But I think the most important part of that conversation is just knowing that fill your cup, no matter how it looks, what it looks like. I was once a yoga instructor, a yoga teacher. And so a lot of times I would always talk about people where, if you find yourself on your mat and that's where you fill it up, that's where you go. So for me, it is honestly sitting on my couch and filling up shopping carts.
Oh, yes.
Fashion is huge. So I love a good fashion.
I love that. So speaking of filling your cup, we see each other at a lot of conferences, and I know that we get a lot of energy just from interacting with different people, sharing knowledge. So you present at conferences a lot. I'm just wondering, with trends in different types of technology, trends in education, what are the biggest highlights outside of the content that you find to be bright lights for you? When you attend a conference, what do you look for outside of going to sessions?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think having a solid professional learning network, PLN, is so solid. And I say that because I have been able to really, where I really fill my cup is the dinners that are more kind of just by yourselves or with other people, I guess I should say. So not like the big events, like those are amazing. And I like going to those to network, but really how I fill my cup is those more quieter conversations, quieter dinners where there's just a smaller group of people, like 6 to 8. And what I love about the educational like space is no matter what person that you really look up to, or no matter who, like, you're like, oh, how would they ever like want to talk with me? Or, you know, what this, like, I feel like sometimes you have that disconnectedness with them. What I have found out is like, those are the people that they love to share. And so ask them to go out to dinner. Hey, I'm going out to this place. Do you want to come out? And a lot of times the answer is going to be yes. And so those are the dinners and those are the experiences that I have walked away with. And I'm like, wow, that has really impacted my way that I felt about blank or thought about blank. One of my best experiences was when I went out to dinner with Stephen Reed and Becky Keene, and it was just the three of us. And he was talking about game-based learning, and he was talking about, because that's his passion. And he was like, you know, a lot of people will start those presentations and say, well, I'm not a gamer, but he's like, and everybody in the room immediately said, well, I'm a gamer, so what's wrong with me? And I was like, I never would have thought about that. And so I don't know, those one-off like dinners, those have always kind of been, so that fills my cup so much, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So last but not least, we had a lot of fun talking here, and we talk all the time anyway. But for people who are not familiar with you, how can they connect with you? How can they find you? And how can they continue communication?
Yeah, so you are free to follow me at Stevie Frank 23 on Twitter. I love to post. I love to connect, mostly just because I love to learn from others. So a lot of times when I'm presenting, I will say, if you're sitting in my room, and I feel the same way for my listeners, if I'm presenting or if I'm talking about you, we're friends. So connect with me if you have if you need any help. I present on student podcasting quite frequently, and so a lot of times I'll tell school districts, I'm like, hey, like, connect with me. I will hop on a Zoom. I was Zooming before Zoom got cool before 2020, and so I will help out with any of those, because there are some things that are hard, and I just believe that we are better together. I also have a website, steviefrank.com, so I put all of my resources on there, just because, again, we are better together, and I have learned so much from others. I feel like it's my small drop in a bucket to be able to give back to the community that I feel like has filled in so much for me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Stevie. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And of course, y'all need to connect with Stevie. Please, please, please do. She responds to everybody. So if you have a question, if you want to reach out, if you just want to talk, please reach out to her. She will be more than happy to respond to you. And we will see you at ISTE, correct? You'll be at ISTE in Denver for 2024.
I will. I can't wait to look forward to it. So yes, if I see you, you should be like, hey, I saw you on the CW podcast with Victoria the Tech. Right. And, have dinner with us. We would love to.
Yes, we would absolutely love to. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here for Focus on EDU, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we post new content. Looking forward to seeing you next time.